You want a piece of me? Oh, this is not good. This is not good at all. Welcome to the 5th episode in my series where we are updating the end dimension in Minecraft. If you haven't watched the first 4 episodes of the series, I highly recommend that you check those out. Anyways, let's jump into everything I've added in today's video. Before we get into the big new stuff I added today, which is a lot of really exciting stuff, I want to cover a few smaller things that I changed today. The first is a subtle change to the color of water in the end. When you place a water bucket down in this dimension now, the water has a purplish tint compared to the water that you'll find in the overworld, making it fit in with the end a little better. I've also made it to where endrams can now teleport around, just like endermen do. In my last episode, I added salt and pepper into the game, but it didn't have a function in the game, until now that is. When you consume salted food, you'll get a saturation bonus that prevents you from getting hungry for a while. When peppered food is consumed, you will get a few bonus hearts for 30 seconds. Lots of people had suggested the idea of having bonus saturation, and plenty of others had given lots of their ideas for what spices could do in game. So if you have an idea that you want to share, leave a comment down below describing your idea. And who knows, your idea may be featured in a future episode. Alright, let's move on to the big stuff I've added today. In the last episode, I worked on updating end cities, and focused on making them more interesting and exciting for players to discover. And while they are now more fun to explore, there is still only one structure in the end. And after a while, that can definitely start to get boring. So I decided to add a brand new structure to the end dimension that I call the End Castle. This structure is made primarily with 3 retextured blocks I added for the end cities. The main part of the structure has 4 large pillars that are connected by 4 large walls. The inside of the castle has been filled with rooms and more for players to explore. This structure would only spawn in the end about as frequently as a stronghold spawns in the overworld, so they would be very rare to find. Upon first entering the castle, there is a hallway that will lead you straight into the throne room. This room consists of a throne, if you couldn't guess, and has a barred off section inside of it that holds some of the valuables found inside of the castle. There are 2 hallways that split off from the main hall, which both have access to 2 different rooms. Right now, these 4 rooms have nothing inside of them, but let me know what you think should be inside of them in the comments down below, and I'll pick my favorite 4 to add to the structure. Each of the 4 rooms attach to the pillars of the castle, and inside of each of them is a spiral staircase. You can take these stairs up, and it'll bring you to a room that connects to the walkways on top of the walls of the castle. You can travel between the pillars on these walkways, and you can even find some loot chests along the way. You can also find loot chests inside of the rooms on the spiral staircase. And if you climb the spiral staircase all the way to the top of the pillars, you may also find loot chests up there as well. If you couldn't tell, there are a lot of loot chests to be found in this castle. If you remember from last episode, I added a new mob called the Ramling into the game. And this new mob also inhabits the end castles. And while that may seem like all there is for this structure, there's actually a lot more going on here that meets the eye. One of the 4 pillars will not only have a staircase that leads up, but also one that leads down. The staircase leads down to the lower half of the castle, and there's plenty more to be discovered in this area. There are multiple staircases and hallways that connect a bunch of rooms all together. Let me take you on the grand tour of all the new rooms you'll be able to find in the lower part of these castles. The first new room in the end castle is the forgery. 2 of the walls are lined with furnaces used to smelt and cook anything and everything. There are also chests on either side. One set of chests holds the fuel used to power the furnaces, and the other set holds the ores and other things that will be cooked inside of the furnaces. The next new room is a very simple and compact enchantment room, which can be used to upgrade any tools, weapon, or armor you may have. Another new room is the armory, which is the storage room for all the weapons held in the castle. There are 3 chests on 2 long walls, one of which hold enderite swords and one of which holds slingshots, which are 2 new weapons I added in a previous episode. The next room is the prison, which contains a tiny cell that could be used to hold any type of mob or player. You can open and close the cell with a lever on the side of the wall, granting easy access in and out of the cell. The next new room is the library, which, as you could guess, holds a lot of books inside of it. There are 2 staircases that lead to a second level in the library. There are also 2 chests placed inside of the library that contain specific loot to the room. In the chest, you can find paper, books, feather, and enchantment books. And if you're lucky, you may find a brand new enchantment book called Auto Mine. This brand new enchantment can be put on pickaxes using an anvil, and has 3 levels. When this enchantment is on your pickaxe, All you have to do is move forward while holding the pickaxe, and you will automatically mine the blocks that are in front of you, hence the name Auto Mine. Although, you cannot break every type of block with this enchantment. The types of blocks you can break with it depends on the level of the enchantment you have. With the first level enchantment, you can break cobblestone, stone, andesite, diorite, granite, netherrack, and endstone. With the second level, you can break all of the blocks from the first level, plus blackstone, basalt, and concrete. The final level can break all of the blocks from before, as well as deep slate, tuff, and calcite. I think it would also be cool to have this enchantment on shovels, so that you can collect blocks such as dirt, gravel, and sand, along with other blocks typically gathered with a shovel. The next new room I've added is the Vault. This is where the Ramlings keep all of their valuable enderite, which has been crafted into this new enderite block. You can attempt to take these blocks from the vault, but be careful, because if you break one of these blocks, the Ramlings won't be very happy with you. And while this next one isn't really a room, the next place I added was the Flight Dock. You can jump off of this dock and fly away from the castle using an elytra as an easy way to escape the castle. There's also a loot chest on the dock that contains fireworks, which can help with your swift getaway. The next room is very similar to a room that you can find in another structure, specifically the Stronghold. This new room is laid out almost exactly like the portal room inside of the Strongholds, and has an end portal of its own. And some of you might be thinking, why is there an end portal in the end? Isn't the end portal a way to get to the end? And I personally think that the end portal can be a link between the end and the overworld, and you should be able to travel between the two dimensions with these portals. So completing an end portal in the end will open a portal that leads back to the overworld. And the final new room I added is the Grand Hall room thingy. It is the largest room in the castle, and the hallway leading up to it is barred off. Of course, you can just break these bars and walk down the hall. There's a walkway that leads to the other side of the room, where a mysterious floating orb is kept. This item is called the Corrupt Orb, and I'll get into some of what it can do later in the video. If you attempt to take the Corrupt Orb from where it is, the orb will vanish, and the whole room will start shaking, and a growl will echo through the room. And then suddenly, a brand new boss will spawn in the room, a boss that I call the End Worm. Don't judge the name, I put a lot of thought into that. But before we talk more about this boss fight here, I want to talk about how this new boss came to be. Ever since I started this series, I wanted to add a new boss into the game. I figured, how hard could adding an entire new boss to Minecraft be? It's hard. It's very hard. I started off with creating a basic model for the boss, and giving it a super simple texture. I loaded my first test into the game, and well, it looked like this. And while this wasn't the worst possible start, it also wasn't a great one. There were so many things I still needed to fix before even moving on. I didn't like the shape of the model, its collision box was way off, the animation wasn't right, and on top of that, I also needed to create the texture for it, give it a brand new code, and make the correct size for it. You might be able to see why this was going to be hard for me. Before doing anything else, I needed to get the base model how I wanted it. So I went back to the drawing board and messed around with the model until I got something that looked like this. The model was looking much nicer already, and while it still wasn't perfect, it was a great improvement. My next step was going to be getting this new boss to be the right size. I wanted something that was fairly large, but not too large. I started messing around with the values to find out what would work. No, nope, definitely not, no, and bingo! After messing around with it for more time than I'd like to admit, I finally got a size that was what I wanted. Now that it was the right size, my next step was making a brand new animation for this boss. Now, don't judge me, I have absolutely no animation experience or skills, and this is wholly my first time trying to animate anything outside of my 8th grade computer class. I spent quite a bit of time animating each part of the body, and eventually ended up with this, and I was pretty happy with it. Obviously this isn't the best animation ever, but it was the best I could do, so I left it at that, and moved on. After fixing up a few small details, the last thing to do now was to throw a new texture on it, which didn't take too long. In the end, I ended up with something that looks like this. Oh, and I also gave him teeth, and with that, I had created a brand new boss for Minecraft. The final product was definitely an improvement for the first draft of the mob. And this new boss is not done by any means. There's still quite a bit of things I'm trying to fix or add to it, but for now, this is the brand new Endworm. If you defeat the Endworm in battle, which right now isn't super exciting since I haven't coded any special attacks for it, but if you do best it in a fight, it'll drop the Corrupt Orb. This is a super complicated new item I've added into the game that has multiple functions. The first of which is that any mob that touches this item will become corrupt. This can have different effects on different mobs, but the only corrupt mob I've added into the game this episode is the Corrupt Ramling. This version of the Ramling has pinkish eyes and teleports around mindlessly wherever it wants. It also won't barter with you like regular Ramlings will, and if you attack any of them, all of the Corrupt Ramlings will come after you. For now, that is the only function I've added for the Corrupt Orb, but I have big plans for this block in the future episodes in the series. And that is all I've added in today's episode. If you are enjoying the series and don't want to miss future episodes, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like on the video if you like my ideas for the end update. And with that, I'll see you all next time.